It is time for Flames Unfiltered, hosted by myself, Rob Burud, and Kyle Lewis. And Kyle, we have a ton to talk about. Lots of stuff.
A litany of things, I dare say.
Off ice and on ice. Some good, some bad, right? We got a freaking mixed bag tonight.
Yeah, should be fun. There's lots happening. So we're both dealing with tumultuous weather this week. We had lots of snow and then rain and then snow again. And I understand it is rather unpleasant where you are as well.
It's cold as hell.
Which is a weird saying, but I know, that's
a dumb saying, isn't it? Stupid.
All right, so
you're frustrated, I can tell. Halfway point, Kyle's done. He's
it's funny. I was going to throw it over to you to open us up, but I guess I will since you beat me to the punch. I'm not going to get too deep into this because, sometimes my tweets can be negative, or my posts on X, if you will. I think my dog just squeaked his rubber chicken in the background like he was agreeing with me. So to me, it's like I'm just so sick of the mediocrity. And like after it wasn't so like they came back and they beat Ottawa, which is great.
Actually a fun game to watch.
It was really fun. But the two prior games on the weekend, it's like especially the Chicago game, and I had a friend over who witnessed my frustration. I'm like, you cannot, as I pound my fist on my desk, you cannot lose that game. You can't.
That game pissed me off.
The Blackhawks they're like, and a few people probably tweeted this, but they're like an ECHL team right now. You can't lose that hockey game.
They had more money on LTIR than they did on their roster that day.
Like, come on. How do you lose that game? And you want me to believe this team has a chance at the playoffs? And people keep saying, oh, they're only 2 points out. They shouldn't be.
And I loved the narrative that I heard a couple of people say, well, they took them a little bit lightly because of how, and I'm like, the Flames shouldn't be, look in the fucking standings. They shouldn't be taking anybody lightly. There is no light nights for the Flames. I'm sorry.
I gotta read this to you, actually. So I think I've mentioned Justin Spencer before, who's a Flames fan, a diehard Flames fan in Ontario. We met at the hockey game in Columbus in 2019. And his uncle Colin was there, another great dude. And Justin messaged me after I tweeted out that the Flames are really bad, and can we just please start selling and auditioning new pieces. He messaged me and said, "You kill me, man, LOL. I can always picture you saying your tweets out loud, and I know what you mean, and I love it."
Oh, I knew you were pissed that night.
I was so mad. Right away, I'm like, I'm going to text Brad and tell him how angry I am. You already know how angry I am from a country apart. But
scrolling Flames Twitter, and it's like, oh, today. Oh,
part of the reason, just real quick, why I got so frustrated was the goal that went off Nick DeSimone the other night when he just looked like a deer in the headlights. Like, he didn't even know he was playing the game of hockey when that puck hit him.
Did you see when that happened to Kuznetsov the other night?
Yeah.
DeSimone was like thinking to himself, don't stand on that side of the net. That shit happened to me last. I was like, oh my God.
Fuck. Anyway, I'm done with the negativity for now.
I got one thing. The Philly game, we lose a lead. But I wasn't all that pissed off after that game for some reason. And I don't know if it was just because I thought we got kind of screwed by the refs. And I thought that I thought they played like they gave a shit that night, and they played with a little bit of meanness to them. And I was like, oh, we still lose, it's like,
so frustrating. So frustrating.
The Nashville game pissed me off more than any other game, I think.
What about it?
I don't know. We win, but it just seemed like it was such an up and down affair. Like, we win, so I was happy, but I wasn't all that happy with. I don't know. I don't know. That sounds dumb to say that because we had two pathetic losses after that.
I don't know.
What do you think of? I got a couple questions about the games. Were you mad, or were you just like, it happens when Vladar let that floater in?
That was bad. I whispered. That's how bad that was.
That's probably why I was pissed off at that game. Not pissed off at Vladar, but you know what it reminded me of? And this is, I have to say this. All he kept saying was, oh my God, that's something Riddick would have done.
I have a Reddit jersey hanging, a game worn Reddit jersey hanging in my basement.
Is that not something that he would have done?
Oh, it is, but it just, I don't know. I loved his enthusiasm for the game, but I know what you mean. Like, but those things happen, and then like the goals going in off DeSimone and Kuznetsov, those things happen, and they're all really frustrating. But just like the fact that the team just has such a hard time stringing together 60-minute efforts.
You definitely don't know what you're getting from like 5-minute segment to 5-minute segment.
But and I thought you were going to say one game to the next, but you're picking up what I'm putting down, Brad. That's exactly what's going on.
How about the Flames get a goal called back in the Philly game? Zari's called for interference in front of the net. What were your thoughts on that one?
I didn't
remember that.
Oh yeah, I didn't agree with it.
And probably more importantly, how bad was the? I didn't think the hit that Lindholm put on York was Lindholm's fault at all. York turned.
No, and I said that at the time. He absolutely turned, and it's very easy to tell either in real time or slow motion that Lindholm had committed to the body check. Mm-hmm. The way his skates returned and the way he was floating, not particularly quickly towards him, he was just taking him out of the play. Like it was just a hockey play, and York turned very quickly. Lindholm, he probably would have done more damage trying to stop than it just falling through the way that he did.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a lot of room there, but he didn't go at him aggressively. And the refs, to their credit,
they got it.
At the end of the day, like another way of looking at this, and I hadn't thought about it until you just brought this up. When a player commits to making a hit, they're also committing to the ramifications of that hit. Mm-hmm. So, insofar as I blame York for turning the way he did, I wouldn't say blame because it's a hockey play, right? But he turned and he made the decision to turn. Lindholm still has to own the consequences of committing to the hit, whatever that is, because it's a fast game, right? Yep. So I think the refs ultimately got it right. It absolutely in no realm ever was a 5-minute major. But could you call it boarding? Yeah. I mean, the guy is at the blue line dumping the puck, maybe going off on a change. That's a lot of quick decisions, and nobody's really at fault. But it's a situation that I felt ultimately, they got the call right.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So
I'm gonna last night's game, Ottawa.
Yeah, go. No, I want you to answer your question. Ask your question.
Well, I just wanted to point out, because we talked, I think it was the last show, I think. We talk about it all the time, actually. Everybody in Calgary and Flames fans are talking about this. I am going to say at this point, with 5 points in his last 5 games, that Jonathan Huberdeau has started to turn a corner. He's making more confident plays. He scored both goals he scored were beautiful. The pass he made in tight on his assist last night was excellent. On a play that was like very quickly disintegrating, was a broken play. There's like bodies everywhere. And
good effort by Lindholm too.
That was all Lindholm, but for Huberdeau to have the sense and that little bit of chaos to make that pass to Sharon Govich, it's like that's the patience and the puck skill of the Huberdeau we all know. So I'm hopeful that he might finish this season with as much as maybe 60 points if he stays hot. But whatever the case, I think he's finally started to rediscover his game, and he's going to be a valuable piece going forward because no matter what the Flames do, he's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. We all have to understand that. I said last show that, give me 20 games. Maybe I said 40 games. I don't know. But 20 games, whatever. I'm not ready to just, put the flag up for him, but I'm pretty excited with what I'm seeing. And it has been very helpful when a couple other guys on our team have cooled off. One thing that happened last night that I wanted to talk about, and me and you have been talking about this a long, long time. And I saw some of your vicious tweets, and I would have asked if it wasn't that it was my co-host doing the X Factor-ish tweet. But Dylan Dube finally is a healthy scratch.
Yeah.
And I know Huska defended them and said, he hasn't been, the Dylan Dube we knew, and they talk about this is what it's going to take, and he's going to be great again. And I don't know about that because he's given me zero signs of hope this year. But whether he becomes great or doesn't become great, this needed to be done.
Oh, it's law. That's what I had said to you as well. It's long overdue. And whether Dube comes back on the ice, back in the lineup, better, even if he's significantly better, it's not going to be lost on me, at least, that this decision came far too late. He's been coasting, giving the puck away, missing the net, fanning on shots. He's been awful for a very long time.
You know, he hasn't had, you know, like sometimes when guys are fighting it, and I've seen this with Huberdeau and Majapani to an extent. They're not scoring, but they're coming close. With Dube, like he had a shot in the slot the other night. It was like freaking right into the chest of the goalie, and I'm just like, that sums up this year.
Yeah,
I feel bad for him, but he does not deserve to be in the lineup. And that being said, with Peltier heading to the AHL Wranglers, we're gonna get him back.
Do you see the little video that the Wranglers posted where he says, like, I'm back?
I did not know.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's cool. And it's exciting for me because, again, he was captain of our junior team here, so I'm always going to be rooting for the guy. I was actually in Edmonton when he scored his first goal against the Sabres last winter, and I was watching it on my laptop, and it was really cool. Like, I got a major soft spot for him. But you're right. But even though while he was out, you could make the argument, I think, that any forward on the Wranglers would have been a better fit in the lineup than Dube with how terribly he played.
Oh God! Twist that knife harder, Kyle. Twist it harder.
But and we've talked about this. Like,
I agree.
Like, you want to be professional on a podcast, but you want to tell the truth. You don't want to bury players too much or shit on them. And I'm not trying to shit on the guy. He's just struggled so much, and I don't know why. And I think the team did him a disservice by keeping him in the lineup for so long because he obviously was not going to figure it out on his own. He was not.
And me and you have talked about this, and I've given my theory on Dylan Dube on the pod. Probably more than I should have, but I believe it. I believe it to be true. And he's deserved to be out of the lineup for quite some time. And I'm very interested to see where he's at in the lineup come Thursday night in Arizona.
Did you see what he was doing this morning at practice?
No, I did not.
He was basically on his own practicing shooting, right back to bare basics. And this is right again. I reiterate, however you want to say it. Excuse me. That he should have come out sooner because the very basics of his game have been awful and they needed work and he needed time. And he had a really good season last year, 18 goals and 45 points. And you articulated this very well in our last show. He just completely fell off a cliff. He doesn't make Huberdeau money, so it doesn't get as talked about as much as Huberdeau struggling, but also Huberdeau never struggled that much that I think anyway.
Well, and then I've said it a million times too, the Canadian fan group, or whatever you want to call it, Canadian fans protect World Junior Heroes. They do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do.
And hey, there was no World Junior Heroes this year, so that's for damn sure. Maybe for you guys and the newest Anaheim Duck, Cutter Gauthier, but
that surprised me, that trade. But I liked it for both teams.
You know what? Actually, okay, we're gonna, if we could, if you don't mind, I'd like to go off the board a little bit with some league talk. Which is good because we like to talk about all the teams and stay in the loop. So I'm not a big John Tortorella fan because I think he disrespects his coaching position by refusing to do proper media availability. Sometimes he's funny, sometimes there's not much to say, but I don't like how dismissive he is because guess what, bud? It's part of the job and you do it. But
I agree.
The way that he handled the questions about Cutter Gauthier was fantastic. And when he looked at the guy and said, I want to talk about Jamie Drysdale because he's the guy coming here. I'm like, that's a great answer.
It is.
John Tortorella, so far as we know, now maybe Gauthier didn't want to play for him, whatever. That's one of the rumors. Tortorella has no relationship with this kid, and he doesn't care because he's not good.
You know what he said? Something about, like, I don't know him from a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Anything about the kid.
Well, for the guys to come to him, and I presume the media's position is one that Tortorella's a hard ass. So, he must be, let's talk about that. And Tortorella is just like, I'm not going there. That's nothing to do with my team or the player coming. Like,
do you ever find it funny? Like, when you look at a guy like Tortorella or, Daryl Sutter, we can bring it right back to Calgary here. The hard ass, per se, coaches. You could probably throw a Bob Hartley, Ken Hitchcock, Okay. When you talk to players, though, after they're done, a lot of them will say they loved playing for that.
The guy right behind you said that.
Yeah.
Johnny Gaudreau had said many times to friends and family and anybody who asked him, and I don't think, not because he's not capable of it, just because it was such a great season. I don't think Gaudreau will ever have that many points in a season again. He was way better defensively, and he's gone on record saying how much he enjoyed playing for Daryl Sutter.
I think Johnny Gaudreau's a great hockey player, but I think he needs that.
I think
players, and I'm not. That's not a knock on saying that. There's a lot of players. Heck, look at it as employees. There's a lot of employees at work that need that prod.
I've been advocating for that, and I'll admit I've needed that. And when I had hard ass coaches, not that I ever played any meaningful hockey, but they got the most out of me. You know, I was thrown on the penalty kill to skate my bag off, to cover my point when I was playing the wing, like be in front of the net no matter who's shooting from the point. You know, like no matter how much it hurt to get hit with the puck, like you go in the corners, like. And I played on a couple teams that won some championships as a result of everybody, that excelled under those types of conditions. So I agree 100%. And like you said, in the workplace, and we love real life analogies here, or non-sports analogies. I've needed that from people I've worked for. I know lots of people in the company I work for now that are much better when someone's like, hey, this has got to get done. This has got to get done. If I don't see this by Friday, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah. Exactly. I think it goes back to the word that me and you have talked about in society that has changed so much, and that's accountability.
Yep.
Things don't get done without accountability, right? Name me a hockey team that is a country club. Well, look at how it was when Jeff Ward was here. Boy, we got a lot of everybody then, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's real.
West Coast Hockey, which is a great X/Twitter follow. They've at length discussed Pierre-Luc Dubois' struggles, his plus minus, his lack of offense, and I've talked about this before, talking to people in the league. Like, it's a known thing that he has a poor work ethic, that, he's not Mr. Ambition, that he has a sense of entitlement about him. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's the God's honest truth about Pierre-Luc Dubois, but the results bear that out. And it's so frustrating to see a player like an Alexander Daigle, for example, somebody who has all the tools to be an absolute superstar, and they're just not.
We can pull it back to Calgary again. Adam Rosiska.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever really know what his ceiling is, but I mean,
I'm ready to see it in another team.
Yeah, it's been frustrating for sure. Like, Martin Pospisil's fallen off offensively, but I'm not noticing him, which is that's a good thing for a young player, I think.
You're not noticing? I noticed the hell out of him last night. I thought he was a top 2 player on the Flames last night.
It was much better last night, but over the course of the last few weeks, when these guys kind of dried up, and Connor Zary had as well, although he's once again scoring, and that was a fucking beautiful shot. The first Flames goal last night, like, beautiful shot.
You know what? You know who he is going to be for us? He's going to be Matthew Tkachuk. That's a little more even physical than Matthew, but not maybe as offensively talented. But he's going to be a little tiny bit less physical Ferland, but a little bit more offensively talented Ferland.
Yeah, the one thing Ferland had that not a lot of guys really had was a real heavy shot.
But he could hit the net.
That depends. I mean, he had it's a real shame that his career got cut short the way it is. It did, because
I loved watching him. I mean,
those 15 playoffs, man. Like, if he didn't get concussed, I think that we lose that Duck series, no doubt in my mind. But it goes further.
Yes,
I think they they end up winning Game 5 in that instance. But anyway, yeah, Pospisil reminds me a lot of him, and you're right. He had a really good game against Ottawa. Rosiska has been virtually invisible or noticeable for the wrong reasons, so he could be next. And again, this Peltier coming back thing, it's really, really big, because it puts a lot more pressure on guys that are in that lineup now.
Well, it doesn't stop there. I mean, we got great news today on Oliver Shillington. I don't know if you heard just in the last hour that he is playing tomorrow night for the Wranglers.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some technicalities now, because you get 3 games or 6 days on an LTR stint.
Yeah. And
he's on, this will be the 3rd game. Just because you don't play in them doesn't mean that they don't count.
Yeah. Well,
so they can
CBA
petition.
But the CBA is designed to get, it's designed, in the player's best interest to get him back with the big club as quickly as possible.
And they can petition, though, to get 2 more games, which would get them through the weekend, because they're going on the road, and then be back. And then he would come off LTIR onto the Flames roster. And we'll see where that leads us. But that is wonderful news. And we hadn't heard about it for a couple of weeks. And I don't know. I can't remember, me and you talked about it, but we wondered, it kind of went quiet again over the last week and a half, and now more news.
Well,
play games.
yeah.
So that's great.
That conditioning assignment was a clear official, because training camp was a false start. He's around, then he wasn't. But when the team is committed to a conditioning assignment with the player, then he's back playing pro hockey. That's set in stone at that point, because otherwise that step doesn't occur. So the great thing, and this is actually a really good segue, and I appreciate the way that you brought that up. Shillington coming back is that news is like a precursor to what they've done, which I think I love. This is one part where I get really happy about talking about Calgary for a change, is like bringing in Jan Kuznetsov. He sits in the press box for a game, then he plays a game against Ottawa. But I think Conroy and his staff intentionally said, okay, Shillington's on his way back. Let's work in another guy or two to see how they perform at NHL level. Show that we're committed to bringing in, like the way they've managed their youth this year with Zary, Pospisil. Coronado's over ripening in the AHL, I feel, at this point. Like it's, but he's going
to. You could argue that a little bit. I think he might need to over ripen just because of
maybe.
He came back for that stint a couple weeks ago and was freaking invisible.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking him, and I'm not knocking what we're going to get in the future, because I think we're going to get a real good player there. But I'm a little bit okay with him over ripening right now.
Yeah, that may be the case, and same with Dustin Wolf. But we should mention as well, both those guys on behalf of the Wranglers have been named to the AHL All-Star team.
Yes, I saw that.
Well deserved. But the way this team has, like, I get excited to see Flames news now, because it's not like an IR thing or a trade for conditional pick or a scratch so much as it's now like, here's a recall, here's another recall. And some guys that are like, big analytics, big followers of the Wranglers more so than you or I, like Mike Gould and guys like him, they'll say like, Kuznetsov going to recall. Wow, I didn't see that coming. Like, that really tells you how much
that coming at all.
No, he's got maybe 7 points, I think, with the Wranglers this year. And like,
what was your thoughts on his one performance last night?
Well, the goal that went off him it's a little, again, like I said about DeSimone, it's kind of deer in headlights, but not really his fault. But I mean, there was a shift there at the beginning of the game. He had 2 shots in quick succession, like getting the puck to that, and good low hard shots, good chance for rebounds. One of them, Korpisalo swallowed up, but like, I liked his game.
That he kept it simple, and I think that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah, it reminded me quite a bit of Solovoyov, and I mean, I think he's shown he could be a good depth defenseman and maybe a regular in the NHL. It's hard to say off one game, but it was a good showing.
I think Solovyov is going to, you can pencil him in next year.
Oh, yeah. We can pencil in for the stretch run when guys like Tanev and Hanifin are potentially traded, right?
Valid point.
Yeah.
So Rooney is off of IR too, and he was put on waivers, clears waivers, sent down to the Wranglers. That's 1.15 cap space for the Flames. Where do we go with Rooney? He might be our best fourth line center right now, though.
It's kind of scary.
Might be, though.
I never understood the 2-year deal over $1 million to him. It was a terrible contract. It's not going to get anybody's attention in a big way unless you're a Flames fan, I don't think. But it was a really, really dumb move. The guy's worth league minimum on a 2-year deal, maybe. Like, I really didn't like it. But I also think you're right, because the way Ruzicka's played and been essentially invisible.
So here's the problem, though. Ruzicka would have to go on waivers.
Well, from what you've said, that doesn't sound like a problem for you.
You hate to lose anybody for nothing, but I don't even know if we'd lose him. I really don't think we'd lose him. Although a lot of general managers look at, he brings everything to the table. He's got size. He's got a good shot. He's a big body. He's just everything. Decent skater. And it's like, why does this guy so ineffective? And why can he be so effective in 3-game spurts? Yeah. So I'm sure there's a general manager out there that'd be like, yeah, we're going to take a flyer on this guy.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, especially as you get into kind of the dog days of the season in January and into the stretch run. So I think somebody take a chance on him.
He currently makes $762,000. He was a restricted free agent at the end of the season. I don't see him back in Calgary. I really don't.
Yeah, I would be surprised unless he has a good showing down the stretch. But That and he could, because he may get more opportunity, like if Lindholm's dealt and a few other moves are made. So we'll see.
Dealing players. What did you think this week when Elliot Friedman reported that Hanifin and the Flames are potentially talking again? Did that make you happy, or did that scare the hell out of you?
It scares the hell out of me. Still a really good young defenseman, but it's a contract year, so of course he's performing well, like anybody would, whether they want to admit it or not. But he's young, so like giving him like an 8-year deal wouldn't be the worst thing to ever happen to this franchise. But it's like his value's never been higher. Like what is keeping Noah Hanifin going to do to move the needle towards retooling, rebuilding, whatever you want to call it?
Well, he gives us some security on the back end along with Weegar and Anderson. So I don't hate it. And I like his age. And as much as he has upset me in the past, but he's also made me happy in the past, I look at him as a guy that I know what I'm getting, and I don't see him. This is horrible to say this, because are we going to use this analogy for the next 2 decades? I don't see him doing a Huberdeau on us.
Well, no, because he's 4 years younger than Huberdeau. So you've already got, if he goes max term, he's still.
Well, I mean, his production level, I don't see it dropping drastically. I think you're going to get from here on out.
Yeah, he's a known commodity, but halfway through his deal, he's only 30 years old if he's to sign an 8-year deal.
True. The only thing that scares the hell out of me, that part of it, is like, what price tag is he asking?
And that's the thing. Like, I'll back up a little bit. I wouldn't hate it. I just don't think it's conducive to what the team wants to do, because as a team evolves and changes and goes year over year, the pieces you kept when you were mediocre and have signed to long-term deals, the more of them you have, the worse off you're going to be. Now, I do agree that you got to have guys like Hanifin, Anderson, Huberdeau, Weegar, who just quickly has been so good this season, offensively, defensively. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I don't think it pushes you back towards contention. I think what you get back in a trade for him is a lot more conducive to that end, in terms of cap management, in terms of player development, in terms of getting them proper ice time. That's my take on it.
How much is he going to cost? You get him for 7.5.
Yeah, I'm worried. I'd seen 8 thrown around, which is just too much. But
I mean, you're Craig Conner right now, and he walks in your office and says, "Well, I heard 9 floated around."
That's crazy.
That's crazy. But if he walked in and said, "You know what? I like it in Calgary. We're good here. I like the lifestyle. I like the direction this team's going. I want to stay. I'll do 8 years at 7.5. What do you think? Well, are you taking it or not?"
I don't think that I would.
You don't really? See, I think I would on that one. I don't think I'd do it for 8 or more, though. I don't.
I can tell you emphatically I wouldn't do 8 or more, but it still just seems like a lot of money for a guy that's a solid 3-4D, but we're talking 1-2 money in my mind. Now, I want your opinion on this, and again, we'll go to some broader league talk. How did you react, talk about money, to the Nylander signing in Toronto?
I chuckled. My first thought on it is, he has improved his whole career, and he's having a hell of a good year this year. But you don't pay off of just that year. But Toronto is so deathly afraid in that market to lose any of their big guns that they overpay them all. And I did the math. There's 62% of their cap is taken up next year with 5 players.
That is absolutely absurd, and no team has ever or will ever win a Stanley Cup with that type of cap structure.
I mean, I've always looked at professional sports as you're only as good as your weakest link, right? Well, you don't have any money to build a defense or much less pay a goalie. So why has Toronto struggled for the last 6-7 years while they've had really good players with high offensive talent? It's because they have never built a blue line or a goaltender.
That's all they have is high offensive talent.
That's all. You can't win a Stanley Cup being one-dimensional. You just can't.
No, and they're painfully one-dimensional. And I said a few years ago when they signed John Tavares, I'm like, that makes no sense. That's the last thing that they need. Well, he wanted to play there. Okay, great. Then take a real discount to play there.
He wanted to play there.
He wanted to play there, so they paid him way too much. Like, what's he making? $11 million a season or something stupid?
So yeah, I think it is 11.15 or something. So
He's not worth that money whatsoever. That's insane.
Let me ask you this one. So what does that do to Marner? That pretty much walks Marner out the door, right?
I don't know how it doesn't. Really, I really don't.
I don't either. I don't either.
So, and and this has been brought up. I think Jesse Pollock brought it up actually. The Winnipeg Jets are first in the NHL with a record of 27-9-4 for 58 points in 40 games. That's a .725 points percentage. Their highest paid player is Kyle Connor at $7.5 million.
He's not playing right now.
Yeah.
And hasn't for some time.
They got Scheifele and Hellebuck on long-term deals after there was a lot of concern they'd leave. And I think you and I talked about this at the time. It was like, oh, like that's too much for those two players. In the Winnipeg market, it's different. It might be a lot for those two players in some people's minds, but they committed to Winnipeg, the smallest of the small markets in Canada and the league as well, or one of the smaller ones in the league. But point being, they got one guy at $7.5 million. And he's one of the purest snipers in the league, but you can't. I don't know what Brad Treliving is thinking. You will never have a winning team with that much money tied up in so few players. The math doesn't work.
They don't have anybody over 7, huh? I'm pulling it up right now.
Nope. Apart from Connor at 7.5?
No, Connor's not even that. Okay, yes, he is. He's 7.1. He's 7.1.
Oh, but that might be actual dollars though. I think his cap at 7.5 for however that works, but
that could be. I look at that. Yeah, wow.
Jeez. Like Mark Scheifele at $6 million. So that's great.
Hey, do you see Winnipeg as like one of the most potential landing spots for Chris Tanev?
Oh yeah, because I mean he's used to Western Canadian market, and
how does he fit into that defense?
Oh, he'd be sheltered a bit more because their defense is better. But imagine him with Josh Morrissey.
Oh, their defense is deep.
You know what? I've got those Lewis Winnipeg jerseys. You can bet your ass I'll be wearing those during the playoffs because I'll be firmly behind the Jets. I know geographically they're pretty damn close to you.
They are the closest team to me.
And they're pretty damn close to my heart because I love that city. I think they deserve to get their team back. But that's the blueprint for a winning hockey team. Your captain makes $4.5 million, good two-way player. Nikolai Ehlers, great scorer. He's at I think $6 million as well, maybe 6.5. Like a really well built team.
And it's so weird because before this season started, everybody was ripping the shit out of Shoveldayoff. You missed the boat. They're never signing there. And then he signs us to big guys, and then everybody pulls together and plays hard for a hard-ass coach. For a hard-ass coach.
Yeah, who is from Moncton, New Brunswick. Rick Bowness is from here. Yeah. But, when he talked about his wife and her health scare, when you get to see the human side of Rick Bowness, you see why those players play for him.
Yeah,
because they know he's a big teddy bear. He just has a job to do, and he's damn good at it. I mean, he almost outcoached. I mean, Jake Ottinger is a big part of it. 2022 playoffs. Rick Bowness was a huge reason that series with the Stars won 7 games. I think
Ottinger the biggest, but yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Let's. Well, we're not going to switch gears. We're talking about how Winnipeg's model is and their plan. Let's look at Calgary, and Don Maloney had an interview during what game was it? During the Chicago game. Shocker. And man, the Calgary media and some of the fan base went absolutely bonkers on this. And I think it's the most overblown comments I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Not like, what's he supposed to say? Hey, everybody, here's our 5-year plan and break it down for everybody.
Well, and he's not somebody that's in front of the media very often at all.
No.
So,
like, why did everybody blow this out of proportion? Like, I'm reading these articles.
I think it's because everybody's on edge because the team hasn't committed to a particular path because it's been so hard to do, right?
Well, we can't commit to a path right now because we didn't know what path we were going on. We're learning right now. And it's a
lot later than we'd like to be learning it, right?
I know, but is it maybe a blessing in disguise in the fact that we get more value towards deadline when teams start to panic? I don't know. There's different ways to look at that.
No, I think that's the thing. I mean, the team is not, like I mentioned, the Flames being bad. They're bad in the sense that they're so mediocre. They're painfully mediocre. It's like here we go again with real life examples. It's like you're stuck in a terrible relationship, but nothing's that bad about her, so you don't want to leave. Because it's okay. It's pretty good some days. It could be trying other days, but it's like a lot of people. It's like settling. You're stuck in it.
You want to hear a horrible story that I can relate to just with your comment right there?
Oh my God, do I ever? Lay it on me.
Oh my God. I might need to pour a whiskey. I was probably like 23 or 24, and I was dating this gal. She was really, really nice. Like, nice. She was over nice. Like, it made me want to puke. But she had season tickets to like the University of North Dakota college hockey, like when Tays and like
Brad, don't say this.
Oshie and Tays were there, right?
Okay.
And season tickets there are freaking like, first of all, you got to like donate $25,000 to the university just to freaking get on a list. Okay.
This is going to be our highest rated episode.
And so she's got, oh my God, she's got 4 season tickets, right? So it's her and her sister. And so my buddy and I were going to get games with those two every single weekend, right? And she had these season tickets. And I like this gal, but she drove me fucking nuts because she was so nice. Like, she literally, if I had a men's league game that night, she would come to my work, get my skates, and go get them sharpened for me. Like,
no way, dude, that's nuts.
Unreal, right?
I have traditionally had weak boundaries. I literally was in therapy for my weak boundaries, and I have never done anything that nice. I don't feel.
God. So it's a Wednesday, and in college hockey in the States plays on Friday and Saturday nights. And I don't know if anybody in Canada knows what like the University of North Dakota against the University of Minnesota is like. It's Calgary Edmonton. All right. Yeah. It's Calgary Edmonton, maybe on volume 9. And I get a little bit drunk on the Wednesday night, and I lose my mind because she's so nice, and I told her that's it. I can't do this shit anymore. And booted her out, right?
Oh man.
So my buddy I tell my friend on Thursday morning that I did this, and he is incensed. He is just irate because he's freaking packing up ready to go to Grand Forks for the Sioux Gophers series, and I dumped the chicken.
Was he dating the other girl or no?
Oh no, they were just friends.
Okay.
But he's pissed because he's like, what are you doing? She's got season tickets. Like, who gives a shit if she's nice to you? That's the dumbest excuse I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah. So
he talks me into, after a few drinks, calling her up and seeing if I can't get the tickets.
I love the layers to this onion of a story. I keep thinking that you've made your point because you've made so many good points in this, and it's just
it gets much darker. She gives me the tickets for the next 3 weekends. And after that, like, I had to have a come to Jesus with myself, and I'm like, I'm going to go to hell for this. So I just quit calling and asking for the tickets.
Because you should probably want to get back together this whole time.
Probably, but it didn't work. But I got 3 more weekends of hockey.
Ever since you asked me to join you on this show, I always thought that of the two of us, I was the bigger asshole.
Oh.
And now I'm really not so sure about that.
One of my biggest asshole moves ever. You want to know there's one other part to it, though. She had 4 tickets, and she let us use all 4 tickets, and I scalped 2 of the tickets and made money. I'm really God. How bad is that? Like, I've been
oh man, this is awesome. But you know what's funny, actually? Now that you got me thinking about it, because God, if you got me thinking about it, when you're a really nice person, which I consider myself to be,
people take advantage of you.
Well, they do. But the other thing is that when you're a really nice person and you do too much for others, the times you are an asshole, man, do you crank that shit to 10. Like, maybe because of Soda character, you don't know how to be an asshole. But
I cranked it all the way to 10.
Oh, man. Just like listening to Rat in the 80s. Oof.
Oh. All right. I'm done storytelling.
I can't talk.
Probably shouldn't have told that. That's
that
a bad
great. No, man. Like, again, that's funny. That is such a commitment to the sport.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Ew.
And in that sense, God help you. But on the other hand, like, oh,
Sounds
dude,
like I love hockey right there. Okay.
you
I
ever
don't
see
know.
her again after?
I ran into her about 15 years later. My wife and I ran into her coming out of a concert at our state fair. Visited with her shortly while I waited for my corn dog.
That's such an American thing, corn dog. I love it.
All right. Okay. I'd have no idea where we were before I went off the rails.
Wherever we were, it wasn't as funny as this shit. So
Lindholm represents the Flames. Let's touch on that. Do you not feel bad for him? Did you hear what his quote was? Like, I'm sure
No.
he said, I'm sure I'm going to get picked last in the draft. That's what he said.
Is it weird to kind of admire the guy for being in a contract year and not playing like it's a contract year? Like, it's just kind of like
definitely not.
For those listening, I'm raising my middle finger, but it's like, I'm just playing the game. I don't care.
Yeah,
he might be right, but I mean,
he's not tricking us. Let's put it that way.
This has nothing to do with Elias Lindholm, other than he's a great example of it. But what a joke this league is. That should go right in the one. Down Goes Brown, like the next book that he does, because
we just need to get rid of the All-Star game.
I hate it, and like it's so clear to anyone and everyone that Blake Coleman should be representing the Flames there.
They should take that event, right, and just make it the Winter Classic, because that's cheesy enough the way it is. Just freaking play it outdoors with all the best players. The whole thing sucks.
I hate
our guy. But you know what? Does that not suck that when you look at the halfway point of the year, our leading projected scorer is Blake Coleman? Oh,
it doesn't feel right, but man, he's been so good. So good.
He's been awesome. But when Blake Coleman leads the Flames in scoring,
it shouldn't be, yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster.
But also, Noah Adler made a good point today on X and said, like, his value's never higher. Somebody would trade for him. He's got a decent cap hit, and man, he's playing well.
And I agree, but you know what? Though I'm going to push back a little bit on that in the fact that is there a better guy to have in the locker room?
No.
For these young players to learn from.
He's great. No, I don't want to see him go. I really don't. Unless it was a crazy high return. Even then, it'd be hard to see him go. I'm still sorry, man. I'm still thinking about your story. God, that's awesome. Oh, that's so awesome.
Gosh. What'd you think of that Gilbert hit?
Oh, where he hit his head?
Yeah. What did you think? That was dirty?
I don't think it was, but I didn't see a lot of intentionality behind it.
Okay. I overreacted.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion.
I did. I overreacted. I've watched it a few more times since, and I've been like, yeah, I overreacted.
I do that all the time, though, especially as a dude. Like, we're just like, oh, this is the worst. And like 2 days, so it's like, yeah, it's fine.
We're so. You know what we got to do? We got to do the X Factor.
Oh, yeah. Man, this show, I think you are the X Factor, but anyway.
This is a little off the rails, too. And you know what? Actually, it's fitting. We talked a little bit this episode about other teams, and this one is another one about another team. And then I read this tweet or X or whatever the hell you want to call it. I was like, God dang, this sucks. But it is the truth. And it talks a little bit about the Pacific Division. And I don't think the Oilers are going to lose another hockey game again. And holy crap, is this team on a heater? 8 in a row wins. They're killing everybody right now. And they're not only, in my mind, going to get a wild card spot, which I think they believe they just moved into last night. Yep. They could push Vegas or LA or I don't know, even Vancouver, even though Vancouver is really on our heater for a divisional spot. But Edmonton's rolling. They are really rolling.
They are. I do want to mention just real quick, local kid, and actually I work with a good friend of the family. Lucas Cormier made his NHL debut for the Vegas Golden Knights and had an assist in his first game. Young defenseman from nearby Bucktush here in New Brunswick. So that was really cool to see. Really, really cool to see. But anyway, I did see this tweet, this X, whatever the hell, like you said, whatever you want to call it. That's definitely the feeling. Especially when you have the best player in the world in your team. It's like, when is this thing going to end? Now, I still think they may have peaked a little early. They got this all back in the playoff position, which is great, but I think they're going to need a goalie going into the playoffs.
I do too. I do too, because you can't play their style of hockey without a great goalie.
Yeah,
in the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, 3 weeks ago, mean, I wasn't putting dirt on this team because I know when you have the top 2 players in the league, anything can happen.
Yeah.
But man, this has been impressive. This has been really, really impressive.
No, it's been a hell of a run and good for them. I mean, it's for such a miserable first 2 months of the season. Like, yeah, no, it's you knew they were going to turn it around eventually. I didn't expect it to be quite this hot. But
this week for the Flames, we've got Thursday, Calgary at Arizona, dad's trip. That continues Saturday on a hockey night in Canada in Vegas, Calgary and Vegas. And then we come home, and Tuesday, Arizona comes to Calgary. Why do we play all these teams like we did Philly, just like back to back almost? And then
weird schedule.
Now we got a bunch of Arizona stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, we're playing in the little arena, the Mullet.
Yeah.
It'll be full of Calgary. It'll be 80% Calgary fans, which is great.
So you have the 1,000 people in there. Well, I think it holds 5,000, but anyway,
6,800, I think.
Mullet Arena is the worst name for a hockey arena since the Gaylord Entertainment Center in Nashville, Tennessee.
You know, when I heard the Mullet Arena, I'm like, what in the hell? But then there was due to the last name Mullet gave a shit ton of money.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They didn't just say, we're going to call it the Mullet.
And you know what? The mullets are made to come back, and I know several people who have great mullets. So
I know one. God,
I had one briefly when I was in high school, but I don't think I do it.
So did I. I had one when I was in high school. My kid went through that stage a couple years ago in high school.
Yeah.
I freaking hated it. He looked like an idiot. Now he's got normal hair.
I have a question.
Yeah. Geez, you're not going to ask me to tell another story, are you?
Oh, if it's like that one, man, I'll stay on all night for sure.
I got another one coming up for a couple weeks from an old Brandon Wheat Kings trip. I'm not telling you today, but it's a dude.
How long were you aware? How far ahead did you know you were going to end this relationship, but hung on to it for the hockey tickets?
Oh, it was brewing trouble for 3 or 4.
It's a while.
Between 4 and 5 weeks, but I had to hang on because, and then finally I had too many beers that night, and my mouth goes a lot more after I'm drinking.
Really? I never heard of that.
And I'll tell you what, I pulled the plug that night, and boy, my friend was pissed, and he got me sauced up again the next night and talked me into calling. I feel bad about that, man. I hope she doesn't listen. There's no way she'll listen to this. If she does, it'll be embarrassing.
I'm sure she's way happier with whoever she's with now than she ever would have been with you.
After that asshole moved. Yeah.
There's several times since we've been doing this together. I'm gonna do a little reflection here. There's several times that we've done this, and I think that was the funnest one yet. And then we top it, and then we'll top it again, and it's like, it's so fun. It's so fun to bitch about the Leafs contracts and hear these ridiculous stories of yours that I could never imagine you doing, which it makes it so much better. But anyway.
Oh, I've done some dumb things.
Does your wife know this story?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll find out, because sometimes you know what's weird is I don't think she listens to this at all. Which, why would she? Like, she listens to me enough.
Yeah, that's true.
I know my one daughter listens though, because she's said things before. She listens once in a while. I got 2 girls that really like my son likes hockey, but my girls are at that age where they kind of want to do what dad does, and they really watch a lot of hockey, and
that's awesome.
They can name, I bet you right now, if I put up pictures of the Flames players, they'd get over 50% of the team named.
Wow.
Pretty good for little girls.
Now, after the trade deadline, I'm not sure anybody else will be able to do that.
No shit, right? Hopefully they don't listen to this episode. They hear that story, they're going to lose respect for their daddy.
Well, yeah, probably.
Oh, jeez. Oh, wow.
I'll have to think of a similar story here. I'll share for our listeners.
All right, Flames fans, another week of Flames talk that was skewed. Hope you enjoyed it. Lots to talk about.
I sure did.
Oh, man. We're back next week. More Flames hockey talk. Maybe another story. We'll see. Have a good week, Flames fans.
Another story. Later, guys.
Check back next week. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.